guys, welcome back to the Queen Me Show. I'm Nikki, and today we have a special guest. She is one of my really good friends, and her name is Lolo. So let's bring her on.
Hey guys.
What's up, Lo? How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on the show. And I know we've been talking about, podcasting for quite a while. And you and I met, I would say like a year ago, right? In the
Yeah,
gym. Oh my gosh, a little over a year ago. And you guys, I just love what this girl's about. She'll tell her story, but a little bit our friendship. We have been always been on the same mindset. We just want to surround ourselves with people who are better than us, who want to become better than us, or to make ourselves better, right? And Lo has been one of the amazing, women that I am just, attracted to because I just love her light. I love her purpose. And so, Lo, tell us, a little bit about you, where you're from, about your background, what you do right now.
okay. So I am from Washington State, the Washington that has Seattle in it, because people always get confused with Washington, D.C. I played college basketball for Syracuse University for 4 years, graduated in 2021, which was last year, and then I moved out to LA with a media production business, and some random stuff happened, and I ended up blowing up on social media. So I used my media skills to instead start all my social media channels, and I grew on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And now full time, I do social media with basketball related content, and I hope to soon relaunch my media production company and also be a business owner with my work.
I love that. And so obviously your background stems off of basketball. So just like me. So let's talk about how you got to where you're at right now because you're so inspirational, guys. If you see her TikTok, if you guys see her, Instagram, or if you just see her in person, she's just so down to earth, and her personality, like Lo, that's what I love about you, is that like you have such a big heart, and you love to inspire people. But there's some people on Instagram or social media that do it just for the clout. And Lo, like, you are so genuine, and that's what I like about you, right? So tell us about like your background. Like, when did you start playing basketball, and then how did that all lead up to you playing in college? Because I know, college was a big, part of your life as well. And that has gotten you to where you're at right now. So talk about.
Yeah. Okay, so I grew up playing a bunch of sports. My parents put me in a bunch of things, and I just liked doing everything. So I eventually narrowed it down to basketball. I played AAU. I traveled around the country playing AAU, and then ended up going to Syracuse. And Syracuse was kind of an interesting experience for me that I think a lot of female athletes can actually relate to, which is not good. But most of the D1 athletes or any athletes that I talk to about college sports, especially in the female category, is they all kind of have the same experience of coaching and like toxic environments. So I was one of the people who had coaches that got investigated, fired, big blow up drama thing while I was there. So when you search about Syracuse University women's basketball around the time that I was there, that's kind of like all that comes up. But that was my experience during that time.
I love that. So how did you get through, college basketball? Because girl, it takes a lot to play in college, right?
Yeah.
Mental health, like you just like getting playing time. Because for me, my PT was super limited, and then it eventually comes what, political, and then it
Mhm.
eventually messes up with your mental health. But for us, we want to advocate, women's sports, right?
Yeah.
And so how did you get through that? Like, what did you learn from your whole collegiate experience?
I mean, I feel like I'm one of the most like adaptive people I know, in that like I feel like I can usually come back from most things. And so when I was in college and I wasn't getting playing time, my goal was always to get playing time, and I
Mhm.
was in the gym more than anyone on my team, and everyone knew that. So I feel like everyone kind of was rooting for me to get playing time. That wasn't the coaches, but it did come down to politics, and coaches have relationships with people's parents, and there's a lot that's promised to certain people, and a lot has to do with rankings, especially at a big school like Syracuse. His goal was always to be like ranked, and to play ranked players would help his ranking if his ranked players were doing well, because that's what broadcasters talk about. There's just so much that go into it, but there was always people out there that weren't doing very good that other people could have been doing
Right.
better than. But I would say one of the hardest things for athletes is like your sense of self, because at the time your only like feedback that you're getting as a person in anything is how well you're playing. So if you're not playing well, everyone around you kind of treats you worse, and that's such a hard environment for like women who are becoming grown women to find themselves in. And I think most athletes go through is just your identification is only as an athlete. And for 4 years it was like my only value was how well I was playing, and the coaches didn't really play me. So as a person, I just didn't feel very worthy of a lot of things, even though I feel like I'm a person who can usually like boost my own self-confidence. So getting out of college was a crazy realization of the fact that I'm like so worthy of so many things, and I'm just as good of a human as anyone, no matter how good I am at basketball. And I have so many other things to offer, and I feel like all my friendships now just rely on who I am as a person and aren't affected by basketball, which is the craziest concept that's even a thing. But even teammates and everyone that you're surrounded by in college, everything has to do with playing time. Even girls from other sports, boys from other sports, they know like who on the team is good and bad, and it's kind of like, it all, your whole self-worth is how good you are, how much you're playing. It's weird.
Girl, that is huge. Like you hit it like on the spot. Like self-worth, number one, right? So self-worth, a lot of people, especially when you're in college, you're young, right? And you are so vulnerable to your surroundings, right? So and when you do play in college, all these cameras are on you. So many people are looking at you. And it's like, dang, well, I'm at practice busting my butt and I don't get what I deserve. So it's like you question yourself, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, am I doing enough? Am I, worth it? Am I supposed to be where I'm supposed to be at? And I'm sure you felt that way. So what is, one thing that you would want to tell anybody who's going through this situation right now, or just playing in college where they're not getting, their playing time, or they
Yeah.
just don't feel worthy? What is advice that you want to give them right now?
There's something I think everyone has to realize at some point in their life. And like, you have to have, whether it's basketball or anything you're doing, you have to have such a strong sense of self. You have to know exactly who you are. And it's much easier said than done. But often our own perceptions of ourselves, we kind of depend on other people to give to us. So how other people are treating us can determine how we feel about ourselves. But something everyone needs to realize at some point is that how people treat you doesn't equate to your self-worth. And you have to know yourself so deeply that people can't touch what you know about yourself, which for me personally, I feel like I'm a genuine person. I have a nice heart. I'm a really hard worker. like those core things, those core values that you just know are true. Like, think of the way that your family sees you. That doesn't change because other people aren't treating you well. That's something that is hard to grasp.
I love that. Girl, you about to make me cry. Only because like that's so true. Like we can get in such like a deep conversation with this, you guys. Like if you are an athlete right now, please, do not let the sport define you. Because one day, right, Lo, the ball is going to stop bouncing, right? You are going to have to keep going on with your life. And what happens, knock on wood, when you get injured or when you're done
Yeah.
playing college, like, who are you? Like, Lo, I feel like people have like an identity crisis after
Yeah.
being, in college or like when they
Yeah.
lose that part of their lives,
I was gonna say that. So you mentioned like when the ball stops bouncing, but even when the ball is still bouncing, that's almost more important to have that
That's
sense of
so
self-worth. Because think of like you have to have the sense of self-worth because when the sport isn't going well, it doesn't matter if you're the biggest star in the world, you still have to know exactly who you are to be able to bounce back. And that's how people keep that like steady mindset. And I feel like that's something that I struggled with in college was keeping a good mindset because you have to have confidence to play well. And my
true.
confidence would just kind of get down. But there's players. I had a friend in college who played football, and he was always a star from every team that he grew up on all the way to college. And so his sense of self-worth was what his coaches told him always, like he was a star, he was amazing. And then he got to the league and had this huge identity crisis and meltdown, because not meltdown, but this is the first time coaches didn't tell him he was the best ever. And he didn't have his own representation of self-worth to back it. It was only what other people told him. So now that they weren't telling him the same things, he couldn't play well. So it does still matter as an athlete too. That's like the biggest thing.
Right, right. So even when, you are playing your sport, it's so important to like find who you are deep within yourself because we both know that like the sport has made us to become who we are today. Girl,
Mhm.
confidence, self-worth, your mindset. If it wasn't for basketball, then I don't think I would be this relentless. I don't think I would be this, mentally tough, right? So basketball or whatever sport you play, that is just a bridge, you guys. And if you do go far, good for you. Like you are meant to be in that field of in
For
that
sure.
career, right? So let's talk about Lo. Let's talk about you. Did you know who you were in college? Like, what steps did you take? What struggles did you have during college that have
Yeah.
molded you to become Lo right now?
Okay, so I feel like my biggest realization of who I was happened as soon as I got out of college basketball, and that's true for a lot of girls, but it definitely would have helped me a lot to figure that out sooner. But the problem is, it's not only what's on the surface, there's so many subconscious factors that play into this like self doubt and your worth as a person. It's things like a coach might not even realize they're doing it, but the way they say good morning to their favorite player, their star, their starters is like, good morning, like, how's your family? They ask them about like everything in their life. And then if I'm not helping his job, which is to win basketball games, he doesn't really care. So he gives me
Mm,
like a what's up?
mm.
And all of those little things do play a factor in your
In your
subconscious like
mental, right?
image of yourself. And these are the only people you're surrounded with every day. So it's hard not to accept that as who you are as a person. But for me, being in college, it was basically that. I felt like I had so much going for me, and I kind of just didn't think that I was all that as a person by the time I graduated, just because that was what my environment led me to believe. But in reality, I was so multifaceted, and I still am. And while I was playing in college, I had an internship and I was running my own business, my media production business. And I had so many things going for me. I had good grades, I had a double major, I had all of this, but it literally didn't even matter in the environment of basketball. So I just felt like I wasn't shit. So
Mm.
then once I got out of college and all of these amazing like traits that I had really started to come into play and really help me, I realized I was like, dang, I damn near have superpowers with all the things that I'm good at. And I didn't even realize like how powerful of a person I was. And now that I'm in my career, I've been out of college for like a year and a half. I'm like in my full power and confidence. And all of my teammates that I had in college that used to treat me like I wasn't all that, like they just see me doing all these great things. And it's crazy because a lot of my teammates, um, not a lot of them, but some of them, like basketball is their everything and they were so good and they played so much. But when they got out of college, like as a whole person, they didn't know much more than basketball. So I think it was really helpful for me to have found that and to have realized all of my other good traits about myself and put those to use.
Right. And I love, what you said about superpower. Like you
Mhm.
had all the potential, girl, to become successful. Right. And it's so, beautiful just for you to witness, for me to witness your whole journey. Right. Because right when we met, you were kind of like a couple months, just, you just graduated and then you moved to LA. Right. This girl, you guys, talk about taking a risk, okay? This moved to Los Angeles. Do you know anybody out here? Like,
No, I knew like two people.
wow. Okay, so this girl moves to LA, and you guys know how LA is. There's a ton of people out here, but people, come here, for opportunity. And this girl moves out here and you are just so consistent, and I can tell that you love what you do, Lo. And that's one thing I love about you, is because you guys, whatever you guys do in life, right, make sure you love what you do. That's the first thing, because if you love what you do, you're going to be super successful in it, right? And what she does, Lo, you have gone through so much, and I feel like a lot of people really don't know like the backstory of it, but
They
they just
don't.
see, the glitz and the glamour, and oh my God, all she does is TikTok. Like, why does she, and, and I know, like, I'm on your close friends. Like, I see, I see, people, like, no matter what, it's crazy because no matter what you do, good or bad, people will always have something to say to you.
For
Always.
sure.
So, how do you handle that? Like, how do you handle blocking out negativity? Because, girl, social, and you have a lot of the younger following, right? You have a lot
Yeah.
of the people who are younger generation
Yeah.
that follow you, right? And they get so struck on social media. They get so affected on social media. So, but for you, how do you just let that negativity, how do you like block all that out?
That's something I'm still learning for sure. But I think in the last 4 months, I've learned a lot just in the last few months because the thing about social media is when I was first growing, there was no room to think about anything negative because I was growing so fast and people love to see an underdog like winning. So when I was growing, everyone was cheering so loud. Even all these creators that have way more followers than me, like everyone was rooting for me, thought I was so great, new girl on the scene, whatever. And then you get to a certain point where people don't people don't need someone that already has success to have more success. So I think a lot of people have experienced how you just grow and then you get to a point where people are like mad that you have success because at first everyone's like, we love this for Lola, we love this, we love this. And then all of a sudden it was like, she doesn't deserve this. She is this, she's that, she's that. But like people don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So for me, it was the last 4 months. It was so weird to have so much feedback to everything that I did. And for a second, I started just internalizing everything. And it was weird because like I'd post a story that I liked and then I'd immediately look at my requests and the reactions to it. And if it wasn't what I thought it'd be, like I would just delete it immediately. And then it became like posting for other people's reactions instead of just posting who I am, which gets you in this weird cycle. Like I feel like I completely like lost myself for a second, which was like so weird. And like I didn't even realize it was happening. I just was only posting because of like the reaction I wanted to get. And then it's just like this weird cycle. And then I just felt like I didn't know who I was for a second. I got depressed for a couple months, stopped posting for like 4 months because I just didn't want anyone to react to anything that I did. I hated all the feedback of everything. So then I had to like go through this whole thing and then realize that I just need to be myself. And the people that want to follow me will follow me because I'm myself. So it was a lot.
I feel you, but isn't it crazy how like the type of advice that you give, right? And is like to not care about what other people think, but at the same time, like on the other side, sometimes it's easier said than done because you're witnessing it, you're going through it, right? And
Yeah.
um and so you have been growing, so much on social media, right? So what is, what are your next steps? Like, what do you see? What are you focused on right now? On your growth, on your personal development? Like, what do you want to see Lo do, let's say, at the end of the year, or, your short-term goals?
Okay, so short term, but also long term, I moved out here to work in film. I always worked in editing. That's been like my passion my whole life. So, like since fifth grade. So that's why I've gotten so good with like YouTube and stuff because I actually genuinely enjoy making the videos. And that's on a small scale, but in the next year I want to produce a short film and make steps, direct and produce and whatever else. Short film and make steps towards working in the film industry, and I might go back to school next year. Not back to school, but be in a film program for a year in LA. So I would still be doing social media at the same time, still using all my skill set, but I'd be doing that on the side just to get my foot in the industry. But for the immediate future, I'm still just investing in the content that I have, making YouTube videos. I want to be a voice for women athletes, and something I've just been trying to like find ways to help elevate women in this space. So yeah.
Oh, look at you. I love it. I love it, Lo. And I know you're going to reach it because you have been super consistent. You love what you do. Now let's not talk about business. Let's not talk about basketball. Let's talk about Lo again. Like, what are some things that you love to do for self-care? Being in LA, what do you do to, de-stress, to unwind? What do you do when you're not working?
Great question, because I am a firm believer of a lot of these things. Like I said, in the past 4 months, I have gone through quite a few things. I love to read, and I feel like when you're in your lowest points is when you're the most focused and aware of your emotions and what's going on. And it's kind of like the beauty of going through stuff, because that's when you grow. So for me, there's a lot about like grounding and doing things that you feel fully yourself. And I've read a lot about this too. There's things like just walking on a beach barefoot. There's like things that just make you feel alive, whether that's like dancing to music, going for a bike ride, a walk, things that just make you feel very present in the moment. And so for me, when I'm feeling stressed, don't know who I am, et cetera, I like to read, write, be outside, get off of my phone. Self-care is huge because that's expressing love for yourself. Showering, washing your hair, face masks, all of that is good for your mental health. But grounding and that present moment feeling is, I think, the biggest thing that has helped me in the past few months. It's just taking a second to feel everything.
and to to just to be present, because girl, with the type of lifestyle you live, I feel like people just see, geez, event here, event there, you're always on the go, we gotta film content. It's like you and I are at the gym
Yeah,
and I'm like, no, what are you up to? Oh, I gotta go film. So I feel like that's a
yeah,
big part of entrepreneurship. And
yeah,
so I see you just got your dream car recently, right?
yes, yes.
So how
It's
has that
crazy.
been? How has
That's
that been?
something
How's
that,
it feeling?
yeah, that's something that's so crazy to me still. And I'm just so thankful for the place that I am in now because I moved here, like you said, not this past May, or June, but the one before that. And I moved here with a 2011 Chevrolet that needed a million things fixed. The radio didn't work, the brake lights didn't work, and the windshield was cracked, and there was a headlight out. And there's so many things that needed to get fixed that I was like, I could invest in a few $1,000s in this car and fix it, or start saving for my other car, which I wouldn't recommend this advice because this car was kind of illegal for a minute, but I really couldn't afford to fix it for some months. So that gives you some perspective on where I started. And I lived in a studio apartment, just whatever I could find that I could afford when I moved out here. And then this past March, I think, I bought my dream car, which everyone has like if you're thinking of like someday if you could afford anything, there's like those cars, but this is like a realistic dream car, like a car that when I was in college, I saw the rich international students always driving these Porsches. And I just felt like that was such a luxury that I didn't know if I could ever afford. But those were cars like I was like, I could see myself in that car. That would be a me car. It would really represent like, I don't know. I feel like your car is kind of like introduces yourself before you get out of it. So
Sure.
yeah, and we talked about this because Nikki bought her dream car this past year as well. And it was a while before I did. And I just looked at that and I was like, dang, like that's something I want to do. And I just could
Yep.
not believe that less than a year out of college, I was able to buy that. And it was the best feeling ever. It still is.
Yep. And you guys, and this is the reason why it's so important for you to surround yourself with the people who are better than you or who will help elevate you. Because
Or older friends that are doing things that you want to be doing in a few years. Like,
yeah, 100%. Like Lo, you and I have talked about, investing and, big projects and just business and, buying our dream
yeah,
cars. And that's huge, you guys. It's so important. If you guys are watching this right now, I know a lot of you guys are, super are younger, or, it doesn't matter what age you are, but if you are young and you want to dream big, right, it's very important that you guys stay grounded, you guys stay focused, you guys, know who you are, right? Because throughout this journey, people, like I said, people, whether you do something that is good or bad, they will always have something to say, right? And
you
if
have
you
to
know
know who you are.
you have to know who you are. But Lo, we always say you got to know who you are. But let's so we're basically like coaches now, right? How do you
Yeah,
teach someone to know who they are?
to
Because they're
figure that
like,
out.
wow, Nikki and Laura are talking about, oh, like we got to know who we are. But it's like, let's say an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, they probably don't know, right? So
Yeah.
let's talk about that.
Yeah, that is such a crazy concept because I literally feel like it's a black and white, like how your life changes when you figure that out. Because I feel like the way you grow up is like you're acting like everyone around you or just trying to be liked. And like you do that for like however many years until you realize that the most likable thing is being genuine and honest with yourself. So that was like the biggest epiphany I had. And I feel like I've been a completely different person ever since. Like, I feel like if someone knew me from a sophomore in high school and before that, they'd say like I literally just 180'd into a whole different person. But it's because I just had this, I don't know what made me realize it, but I just realized I was struggling with identity issues, like confidence, because that's things you go through in high school. And like some people don't realize who they are for a lot longer than that. But I just realized the people that I knew that everyone loved were nice, obviously, but that's just the half of it. But they were just really honest in general. Like they were honest, genuine people that you could like trust. And what that means is like you have to be honest with yourself, to be honest with other people, and to be true to yourself. Like it all comes down to just like being your truest self and knowing that if you're your honest, truest self, the people that are meant to be your friends will want to be your friends. You don't have to fight for anything.
Exactly. And, being your true self, that, not caring about what other people think plays a huge part because honestly, I was insecure, like I could admit to, when I was young, I was super short, I don't know, it just I struggled with, some things internally as well as
Yeah.
externally. And, I'm pretty sure everybody has those, times in their
Yeah.
life, especially when you're young, right? And so, but you know what I did? I used my insecurities as my strength because being the smallest one on the basketball court, right? It's like, damn, like I was insecure about that. I was like, wow, people are going to judge me, and they're going to look at me. They're going to be like, why is she playing the sport? But you know what, Lo? I use that as my strength, right? I
Yeah.
use, my speed as my strength. And once I became honest with myself, I really tapped into myself, like what you said,
Yeah.
right? I started to love myself. Like
Yes.
self-love is right? So important. So, girl, you feel me? So, are there some insecurities you've had in the past
Yeah.
that you now, damn, like I use that as my strength now?
Yeah. It's when we talk about being true to yourself, it's kind of coming to terms with who you are and accepting that and loving it. Because I grew up, my thing growing up was I was always so skinny. Like I was like this stick thin person with like
Really?
bony legs, like big kneecaps, like, and that's something that people talk about on the internet, but like girls are insecure about that too. So when everyone was always like, "You're so skinny," like it was never a compliment, and I hated it. And I was like lanky looking because I was so skinny, and I just hated it. And that's one thing like about like realizing who you are is because I just wanted to be everyone else and wanted to be liked,
Right.
acted like other
Right.
people.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's so
So one insecurity was that I was skinny. And there's others like I felt like I was annoying sometimes because I grew up with ADHD, so I feel like I talk too
wow.
much. But I had to realize like why some of those things bothered me, and I feel like that's one of my strengths now is that I have ADHD, so I'm like a fun, outgoing person, and you
Hmm.
can channel that into something that isn't negative. I think I hated having long legs and I hated all this other stuff, but now I'm like I wear things that accentuate those features because it's like, it's hard to like come around to, but the things
Yeah.
that make you unique are like your best features.
Right. And you guys have to just accept that being different is a blessing. Like you are the only you there this world can ever have,
Especially in
So,
LA because
oh, girl, yes.
everyone is trying to look the same. So I'm like,
Everybody's gonna look the same.
yeah.
Isn't
So in
that
a world
crazy?
where everyone is trying to look the same, it's a strength and a power to look different or be different.
Exactly. Exactly. So, love yourself, always tap into, and your full potential because once you tap into your full potential, you can be the best you can be in whatever you want to do in life. Right? And like I love what you said. I feel like we should like title this podcast like superpower, like superhuman. Because you guys, you need to understand, you need to utilize your weaknesses because they're eventually going to become your strengths one day, right? Even though you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, okay? One day, I promise you this, when you tap into your full potential, when you start to love yourself, when you focus on your mental health, when you surround yourself with like-minded people or people who are better than you, I promise you this, your life is going to change in an instant, right?
Yeah.
Because Lo, I'm sure you've had, I mean, I'm not going to name any names, people who have been in your circle who are probably toxic, probably teammates who would not, ever uplift you. And that plays a big part and a big role in your life, right? Especially when you're in a stage of your life when you're still trying to grow and figure yourself out,
Yeah.
right?
I was going to say there's another thing that will literally throw your life from one life track to another in the
What
way
is
that
it?
it changes your life. It's about, like you said, knowing who you are, but if you are, and it's about knowing your weaknesses too. If you find yourself, this is literally something that happened to me when I moved out to LA, and the way my life went from like its normal life path to like left doing things I never imagined. It's if you find yourself in the same cycles in your life over and over again, like I had two relationships back to back that were the
Mm,
exact same. Like I got cheated on in the same way, we broke up in the same way. It was like when it happened again, I was just stuck. Like, I'm like, I feel like the last 4 years didn't happen because I've been stuck. And I've read a lot about if you feel stuck against like your goals, like there's just some like ceiling that you can never get over, like you can never get to your goals, like you always have these goals and you just can't get to them. It was like look at the patterns in your life and see what of those patterns is like breakable, and that's how you reach those manifestations that are like stuck beyond your reach. Like you have to hop out of this like cycle, and it literally feels like a universal thing because like I
yep.
swear I hopped into like a different like dimension life path when I broke up with my college boyfriend because that was out of character of my cycles. And
Yeah.
I was just in this cycle of doing what I was familiar with, and what was really best for me was to get out of that toxic relationship. And when I
Right.
did and did what was best for me, it just went in a different direction. So it's about knowing your insecurities, your weaknesses, and to be able to change out of those habits and cycles literally like catapulted me in a direction I never would have imagined.
But you had to want it, Low, right? You have to, want to change, you guys. If you don't want to change, nothing is going to happen. But Low, change is painful. People
Yeah.
don't want to change. Like people, settle, but they know that they're in some type of situation just because, right? So like I said, it's painful to change, right? So I feel like you just need to envision yourself to become better, right? And to literally force yourself to make these changes and habits that will become your best self, right?
Yeah.
So, Lo, how did you get through the pain? Breakups are hard, right? So, and I'm sure, there are a lot of, women on here, young women who are, watching this right now, probably going through the
Yeah.
same thing, like I said, and look, a lot of people look up to you, right? And you have been such, an amazing example, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, right? You
Thank
respect
you.
yourself, number one. You respect and you love yourself enough to a point where I don't deserve this. This is not going to help elevate me, right? Into
Yeah.
the career
Yeah.
and that I want. So how did you get out of that pain, and how did you basically change those habits into having this type of mentality right now?
You're gonna hate that I say it for the millionth time, but it was about self-love because I was
Yep.
in a very low place when I was dating this guy in college that was just not being good to me in a lot of ways. And then basketball on top of that, my confidence was so low and my self-worth was so low, and I just didn't know myself enough. And I started reading and like grounding myself and using my resources of things that I knew would help me. And I knew things about positive affirmations, speaking to yourself and like uplifting yourself. So I started doing the work to have a higher confidence and like be happier because I was very depressed.
Mm,
And I was like writing down what I was grateful for every morning. I was writing down what I liked about myself every morning. I thought about the person that I wanted to be, and that was someone who was fit, happy, friends, like successful. And then I wrote down traits of a person who was that person. And I was like, that is a person who wakes up early. This person is grateful. This person, it spreads love to the people they know. Like I wrote down all these things and then try to like practice those habits. And this was the last like 6 months of my relationship. I was waking up every day like working on those things. And
mm,
it took a while because for a while I was like, this is not working. I'm still depressed. And then it just slowly changed everything until I just woke up one day with so much confidence, was so happy, and just had so much love for myself that like I just pulled more and more away from the relationship because I just knew that I deserved better. And
right.
once I, like 6 months later, I loved myself so much that I was like, I didn't need the relationship and I didn't need all the toxicity I'd had from my coaches or anything. I just felt whole by myself.
Right.
And it took all of that to finally like get out of the relationship. But that also just shows you do know what you deserve and you
Exactly.
know if you're not getting it, you just have to love yourself enough to do that for yourself because you're not being nice to yourself to subject yourself to people that treat you badly.
That's facts. And you said a key word right there, whole. As you know, whole. You guys have to be whole in yourself. So you saying whole and wholeness. So would you admit that you weren't whole being in that relationship?
No, I was like a less confident, less happy, less everything of
Mm,
version of myself
mm.
for sure.
I totally get that. So you guys, it's very important that you become whole within yourself before even getting into a relationship because you want to make sure that you are pouring into somebody else's cup while your
And
cup
they're
is still
pouring into
full.
you.
Yes, exactly. You don't want to pour from an empty cup, or else what's going to happen? You're going to eventually become empty. You're going to run out of yourself. So you want to make sure. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Or realize if you started the relationship whole, realize when someone is taking that from you
Mm.
and you're losing yourself because that's when you gotta go.
Exactly, exactly. So you guys, it's so important to, know who you are, to be whole in whatever you guys are. And singleness is a blessing, Lo. Like being single, like girl, you could work on so much. You don't gotta worry about nobody. You can
So much.
tap into becoming your best self. And don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, right? If you guys do find that significant other that makes you a better person, that is there to support you, that is there to love you, right? Go for it. But I'm just saying is that you need to be whole yourself, right?
Yeah.
And as a woman and throughout this womanhood, for me, I always envision I eventually want to become, an amazing wife. I want to become
Mhm.
an amazing mother,
Yeah.
but that work starts right now. You don't
Yeah.
till that chapter of your life
Yeah.
to start working on that, right? It's like being
Yeah.
an athlete. You got to start when you're young, right? You got to start at an early age to become a great, like it takes a
Yeah.
lot of experience and time.
I always say the same thing. I've been single for I think 11 months now almost, and
Mm,
I've changed so much as a person in these last 11 months. I've
in a good
become
way.
5 different people in like this order. And that's work that you have to do when you're single. And I always believe in the law of attraction because the more I like pour into myself and make myself a better person, the more my who I am is going to attract that much better of a person. The more you put into yourself, the better you're going to get for yourself.
Exactly. Law of attraction is so huge, and I'm huge on this. Lo, how you think is how you live. If you
Yeah.
think that you have a poor mentality, you're never going to reach your goals, then all right, you're going to attract that. But if you think that you are a high value woman, right? If you know
High
that
value woman is a
high
cute.
value woman, welcome to the Queen
Yeah.
Me show, you guys. Like, this
Me and
is,
my roommate always use that. High value woman.
high value woman, right? And that is so overlooked upon because, us as women, we carry a lot. Our bodies go through a lot, like emotionally, physically, spiritually, but you always have to remind yourself that, you have so much value. You just really have to tap into your full potential. If you guys don't know how to, for me, I literally would watch podcasts all the time. I would like listen to audios. I would,
Mhm.
listen to interviews. Like, if I would, replay my podcast because I would have such amazing guests like you who would be so vulnerable to like share your story. And it makes me feel good to know that, wow, like I'm not the only one going through this, but
Yeah.
there is, hope. There is light all the time,
Like
right?
bettering yourself is like the best thing ever. When I
The
know
best,
I'm just like working on who I am as a person, it's like the
right?
best.
Like today, I'm gonna go get a workout in. I gotta go work on my my business, probably say a little prayer because I'm a spiritual kind of girl. Like I keep God first, but you guys, whatever you guys believe in, make sure that you tap into your spiritual, your mental, your physical, your emotional self, right? But don't get me wrong, when you reached rock bottom, right, it's okay to cry. It's okay to, express yourself. But if you do need help, seek therapy, right? If you do need help, go, talk to a friend. Do not suffer in silence because being depressed is probably the one of the worst feelings ever. Right. And, I love how, you and I were, I want to say retired because we play, when we can. We are, how can I define ourselves? Like, I mean, we still play, for
I play for
fun. Like, I
fun.
was
That's what I tell people.
post grad, right?
I
I
play
mean,
for
we still
fun.
play. It's so nice, for us to have this conversation and utilize basketball. I know I got this, from one of my friends, that basketball is the biggest sorority, biggest fraternity that, an athlete can ever join.
Everyone I know, all of my best connections in life are connected through basketball, honestly. It's the
Oh,
best.
100%. And it's so crazy how, there's so much opportunity out there, for basketball. And hey, if you are hooping right now, make sure you give it your all, give it your best. Because for me, I know a lot of people ask, and people are probably asking you still, Lo, why don't you hoop overseas? Why aren't you still playing professionally? Why aren't you? Well, I feel like I've already given, the sport my all. If it happens, it
Yeah.
happens. Right. So that's why
Yeah.
it's very important that you guys, focus. If you're hooping around,
Yeah.
focus, because basketball can bring you it can give you so much opportunity in life. Right.
Yeah.
And
And
go ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good.
I was gonna say I have had some offers to play overseas since I started
Mm.
doing some internet stuff because I'm only if I used all my years of eligibility in college, I would be graduating this spring.
Oh, wow.
So, but for me, you made an interesting point. What basketball can do for me, I think I have reaped all of that. And I think that playing overseas would be a great experience. But with everything I'm doing now, I just don't think I could be like my complete best self while still playing overseas. I think I've like gotten what I needed to get out of playing competitively, like you
Right.
said.
Right. But hey, Lo, that's what's good about basketball is that, if it happens, it happens, right?
Yeah.
Opportunity's still gonna be out there, right?
If
And
it
that's
felt
what's
right.
cool,
Yeah. I
right?
think.
That's what's cool about the sport is that you could always, tap back into it.
Oh,
And
that'd be
there's
such a crazy life change if I just went over there and did that.
no, I know. And,
Okay.
but hey, maybe this is, a sign, because no matter what you do, you could still be vlogging. You could still be doing and that's what's cool about what you do. You could do it wherever you want to in this world.
True.
So that can probably inspire a lot more athletes as well to play
It'd be a
overseas.
crazy side chapter to go do that.
100%. But hey, life is meant to be lived, right? You don't want to, there's opportunities in front of you, right? And don't be scared, take risks, because that's the only way that look at Lolo thinking about it now.
I did think about it, but the season it would be in France, and the season was a year long.
Oh wow. You can
That
still,
is
girl, you can
scary.
still do what you do out there. I could totally see you in Europe. Lolo is
It's a big lifestyle change though too, because the biggest thing that has changed in my life since not playing basketball anymore is having like freedom to be more than an athlete and have fun, going to the beach or like hang out with my friends, going to yoga, going to Pilates. Like I wanted to take I took a boxing class. Like there's so many things to do in life other than like play basketball, And I've enjoyed being everything that I can be just for fun.
Yeah, and girl, you're young though, so you still have so much potential, so much time to, to take whatever opportunities in front of you. But I am so proud of you, Lo. Like, you have grown so much ever since I have met you, and I just see her on my story, see her on my social media, and what I like about her is that it's just positive light. Everything that you do, there is a purpose to it, and that is, that's the reason why I wanted to have you on my show, because you have so much knowledge and wisdom at such at the stage in your life right now. And there are a lot of post grads who don't know what to do, right? But I feel like what I learned from you is that, as cliche as this sounds, and we're going to repeat this, you have loved yourself, learned to love yourself. You have tapped into your full potential, and you have just become mentally, physically, emotionally strong, right? And that takes work, you guys. That does take work. But if you guys, thank you, Lo, for, getting on my show. I love you so much. Of course, do you want to tell, our viewers where they can follow you, find you, social media?
Yes, and on a last note to what you just said, I would just like to say everything I've learned and all the strengths I have came from going through some terrible shit. So use downtimes to learn about yourself and enjoy the good times. But you can follow me at Lolo Fitzmo on every app, actually. YouTube is Lolo Fitzmo, TikTok is Lolo Fitzmo, and Instagram, Lolo Fitzmo. Simple.
Love it. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, Lo. I'm going to see you at the gym soon. I'm actually going to go today, so I'm going to text you right after this. But thank you guys so much. Thank you, Lo, and I'll see you guys on my next show. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Right.